Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to a Thursday night special edition of the Ambassadors of Christ. We're chilling with y'all today on this Thanksgiving hell day that our people are at home celebrating. And for everybody who's tuning in with us, we thank you for tuning in tonight. Today is not a regular class for us, but we couldn't let this opportunity pass. So we'll be with you guys shortly. And for the time being, go ahead and enjoy the music.
Domestic politicians keeping the streets safe. Globally recognized for keeping the banner held high. Priest Daniel Allah, Ashasha Allah, Officer Zayed.
And if you don't think so, go to Washington, D.C. and ask the captain. Those are law books. When we saw the movie Eli, what was Denzel Washington's whole problem we just talked about? The captain wanted all the books, but the main book he wanted, he couldn't get his hand on, was the Bible. Why? Because he told you the Bible built the civilization. Why the Bible is full of fairy tale and myth. Nigga, that's only because you don't know how to read the book. If you know how to read the book, you can try everything.
Seven, completion, Zion, weapon of Yah, Yahweh, lion. I taught the rhythm that I walked, my own, my thoughts of my own until I was shown. Proverbs 16, through study my understanding is grown. Who am I? Fallen angel, son of the Most High. Deuteronomy 28 is open both eyes. When we keep the commandment, we'll rise. The father's opposition, efficient, confederate with their mission. Gave pops a sentence, mom leaned on the system. Baby sis don't listen, making poor decisions. She don't know reality from reality television. Baby bro fried, Lord knows was in his system. He think he official, out here playing with pistols. Doped up, hopeless, no focus, no vision. I show precept to help and they say I'm tripping. AJ said nobody cared, daddy was the youth. I just do what I'm commanded to do. AJ said nobody feared, daddy was the youth. I just do what I'm commanded to do. What I gotta do, what I gotta. What I gotta do, what I gotta. What I gotta do, what I gotta. Do what I gotta. Seven, completion, Zion, weapon of Yah, Yahweh, lion. I keep hearing, get ready for the race war. It's been that since they docked at the shore. Buck breaking, gator baiting, experimented into sneaky swine and astrazine and things that we eat. Bubble in space, offer trouble in Jake. They think they can anticipate our Messiah's arrival. Misinformed by schools, church, and Wikipedia. Looking like fools and whores on social media. I understand it's judgment for disobedience. The constant attack of the devious is tedious. Nobody cared, daddy was the youth. I just do what I'm commanded to do. AJ said nobody feared, daddy was the youth, but I just do what I'm commanded to do. What I gotta do, what I gotta. What I gotta do. What I gotta. What I gotta do, what I gotta. What I gotta. I came in the door, I read it before. He that shall endure, that's Matthew 24. Heart filled with joy, my knees hit the floor. Hallelujah, Jacob ain't trouble no more. Yahweh shy in his glory, seated up on the throne. Nehemiah lifted me up, said welcome home. My first time feeling, no pressure, stress. Daughters of Zion, shamefaced and modestly dressed. All look regal and all look royal. Meat offerings for Yahweh, flour mingled with oil. Paul saluted me, nodded and tilted his cup. Isaiah, Peter, and Joshua was just chopping it up. Moses slammed down his hand and yelled domino. On Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The heathen hauled water uphill, commanded a Noah. Hamashiach dipped his finger and said, keep the party going. Knowing that you hoping that what he's spoken doesn't fall upon your name. But you're gonna be the tokens of what you sowing. Let's just see if you repent. You can tell by his life as it feel like the night through a crash with the waves. A rich man, you might wanna change your way. When I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind, the divine creator of all things, in the earth below and heaven above, opened my eyes and showed me what was love. Life and death before me is set. Zion, here it is. Just keep my commandments and live. That's what I did. I'd be lying if I said that it was flawlessly done, but perfected by 1 John and 1. Back to the scene, pristine. Nana gave me a plate. Solomon need a partner for space, as do I play. Glance to my left when I heard a voice coming. Children, to be careful and stop running. My wife was stunning. I asked, yo, who is that woman? Ezra said that's Mordecai's cousin. Our movement stops when we heard the blast of the shofar. Heads lifted and we praised our Lord. We got on the plane. I'm knowing that you hoping that what he's spoken doesn't fall upon your name. But you're gonna be the tokens of what you sowing. Let's just see if you remain. You can tell by his life as it feel like the night through a crash with the waves. Or if you might wanna change your ways.
All right, we live in full effect. Kwam Yashala. Shalom. Oops, let me kill that. All right, let me kill that focus in the background. Sorry about that. Hey, Shalom. Welcome to another Ambassadors of Christ gathering. We know most of our people out in America, they're out celebrating Thanksgiving and all of that. And obviously, we don't celebrate them days, so we just decided we get with you guys and give a quick little breakdown on why we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, a little bit of history behind Thanksgiving, and what the scripture says about keeping pagan holy days and things of that nature. So what I want to do, let's just go over to Jeremiah 10. Let's start off at Jeremiah 10 real quick. Let's go to Jeremiah 10 and 1 real quick. Can y'all hear me? Y'all still on mute, brothers, if y'all there. All right, Jeremiah 10. We're going to Jeremiah 10 and 1 real quick. And just real quick, I'm Ambassador Yabatazar. Y'all want to introduce yourselves, brethren?
Hey, Yabatazar, you're freezing up just a tad bit.
Oh, freezing up? Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, while the other one gets his connection in order, I am Ambassador Zion. Ambassador of Christ, Cleveland, Ohio. Shalom.
I'm Ambassador Nawal Rakar, Shalom, Michigan.
Khan. Shalom. Is that better, Kings?
Done.
Okay, Khan. So, again, today is Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, thanks lying days. And, being born here in America, we've been taught a lot of things that are Americanized. Some of them are like Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and things of that nature. And, when you sit back and look at the annals of history and you go back and you talk with family members, like I'm one that my great-grandmother, she was Native American. This much I know for a fact because, I questioned her about her identity coming up. And once I got the understanding of who she was, I really, really started thinking about it like, wow, why would we celebrate Thanksgiving if it's the slaughtering of the so-called native people or the indigenous people, or as we say in the nation of Israel, the 10 tribes of Israel that, were scattered abroad, that came over from the land of Assyria. So when we look into the history of Thanksgiving, you can't ignore what it was. It was a massacre. America puts it out there like it was this great gathering that the Pilgrims sent an invitation miles away to the Native Americans to have this great feast. And we hear that history, and a lot of times we just run with it. All the Native Americans and the Pilgrims came together. They were in unity, and the first Thanksgiving was celebrated. But when you really look into the history of where the Pilgrims came from and what they were celebrating in their homelands, and then what they brought over here to us, obviously it's pagan, it's not scriptural. And when you go into that history, it really gives you an eye-opener about what's behind this holiday, why our people celebrate it, why Babylon the Great, which is America, celebrates this holiday, and is this holiday destructive to our own people? So my question to the viewers is, if they had a holiday called National Hanger Nigger Day, what we gonna celebrate?
We would celebrate that too. I don't want you already know, man. Our people, we're lost and confused. You know what I mean? We're lost and confused. We'll change it into the meaning into something different than what it was. And just to land me back off of what you spoke about the history of the natives and the Pilgrims coming together, man, there is absolutely no proof of that whatsoever. You can go back in the history books, and there's absolutely no proof of that. You know how it is, man. If you tell the lie long enough, it becomes the truth. So that is absolutely, you cannot find that anywhere in history.
Con. And the crazy thing about it is, a lot of times our families say, hey, we know the history of Thanksgiving, but it's a time to gather as a family, right? But we call ourselves believers in Christ, all Christians and blah, 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 Catholicism. But when you read in the scriptures, it tells you certain things to do and certain things not to do. Yet, when you go into the origins of America, when all those pilgrims, all those different people came from Europe and wherever they came from, they brought all their pagan traditions and merged them into America. And Christianity just absorbed it all in. Why? Because they wanted all people to be up under one religion, one thought process, and one belief system. So what they did was they had to trim the ways of the Bible and the laws of what it gave as far as what we should do and what we should not do, and with the mixing of all these different people, because America's a great melting pot, right? We can agree on that. It's like a pot of gumbo with a whole bunch of abominations: crab, shrimp, lobster, swine, shitlings, things like that. I seen somebody made a great meme about shitlings as ass noodles. So a lot of people are eating ass noodles for Thanksgiving right now. And it's just crazy that when you really think about it and you have an understanding, like I'm almost 50 years old. I've been understanding this for almost 30 some years of my life about Thanksgiving, if not longer. So anyway, let me go ahead and read Jeremiah 10:1. Jeremiah 10:1 says, "Hear ye the word which the Most High speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed, for the customs of the people are vain." Now we know this is going into talking about cutting a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen, and all of that. But the customs of the people, and Thanksgiving is one of the customs, is vain. It's a vain celebration. Just think about it. Us three brothers right here. We, speaking hypothetically, we run in your house and we commit a genocide upon you and your family. Move ourselves in your house. Generations later. And now all of a sudden your great descendants we're inviting over for this great feast to celebrate your destruction. I asked a lot of African so-called black people this in America. Where were we at during the first Thanksgiving? The second and third Thanksgiving? Or when we came to America when Thanksgiving was being celebrated when we landed on these shores? In captivity, in slavery, still in the cotton fields, still being hung, still being castrated, still being murdered. So I ask you, why would you celebrate something that was not privy to you or your ancestors or your elders, your forefathers and foremothers prior to modern times, right? So let me see what I want to grab real quick. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 29.
I'll get that for you, Adawan.
Okay, come.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 29. And it reads, when the Most High power shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them and dwellest in their land.
Read.
You going?
Uh-huh.
Verse 30, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them. After that, they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Verse 31, thou shalt not do so unto
Read 31.
The Lord thy power, for every abomination.
I think we're freezing up real bad.
I think that's your end on it.
Yeah, it must be mine. Go to read 31, King. Yeah, it's freezing up. I see it hourglassing.
Okay, 31. Thou shalt not do so unto the Adawan thy power, for every abomination to the Lord, which he hateth, have they done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods.
Kind of the one. So obviously, the Most High is telling us, even back then, that we're not to be snared by following after the heathen, following after the other nations. But you know, Israel is a rebellious and stiff-necked people, right? It says that we're not supposed to inquire after their gods. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna share my screen share. I'll share my screen shortly. I'm looking for a couple of things. I got a few tabs, and I want to see where I want to go first. Let's see. Let me see. All right, yeah, let me go here real quick. Give me a second. Is this the one? All right, so I want to go here, right? So when we go back into history about Thanksgiving, right? It's a Greek pagan European harvest festival. It's a harvest festival. And basically what it was dealing with was feminine consciousness in ancient Greece, right? Before we even get into the Native Americans, Thesmophoria, which is a pagan name for Thanksgiving, going back to the consciousness in ancient Greeks. If you know anything about the ancient Greeks, you know they're a very perverted people. These were people that Hellenized our people, that conquered us, right? And put us into slavery, right? So when you get an understanding that the Thanksgiving tradition was about feminine consciousness in ancient Greece, right? So let me see. It says, in most highly anticipated religious festival of the year, Women came from far and wide to gather in their cities to celebrate Thesmophoria, the oldest and mostly widespread of all ancient Greek religious festivals, comprising as 50 cities. It spanned from Sicily in the west, Asia Minor in the east, from Macedonia in the north to North Africa in the south. Where was North Africa? Hey, we dwell in Northeast Africa, right? It says, scholars believe that its expansive nature within the Greek world is testament to its prehistoric origins, primarily a fertility cult. The Thesmophoria ushered in sowing season and was one of a series of fertility cults devoted to humans as well as crop fertility, right? So I'm going to drop down to a couple of key points because I'm not going to read all of this. Let's just see if my screen will drop me where I want. It says, why was the Greek women's festival in hyper-patriarchal ancient Greece given such prominence in greater society? After all, in ancient Greece, woman's place was on the margin of society, away from the public sphere. Sounds like the white woman's suffrage movement, as you kind of get a glance of it, right? It says, could the strict demarcation of gender roles actually serve to empower women in ancient Greece? Disciple of Thesmophoria formed an identity around the code which served to promote feminine consciousness and uncommon and androcentric dominion of ancient Greece, right? Against the backdrop of extreme misogyny, men developed an esteem for the Massoria, right? So pretty much it says, unlike other feminine festivals, women as a form made sacrifices much as men did in festivals, and so used instruments of death in their rituals, right? Because of this and other subversive elements in this festival, men who spied on the event risked life and limb by doing so, right? So basically what it's saying is that this was a cult of women that would leave their homes for 3 to 4 days and all in seclusion, right? And basically, if any man interfered, they're either castrated, murdered, or slaughtered, right? This was beginning of the Greek form of the feminist movement, right? But let me just drop down a little more. Let me see. That's not what I want. So here it is right here. It says, I'm going to start right here. The ancient Greeks were obsessed with the notion of fertility, finding it necessary to have several fertility festivals throughout the year. So I want you to know that this holiday, Thesmophoria, aka Thanksgiving, was a fertility festival or holiday given to female goddesses for fertility, right? We'll prove that. The fertility festivals were a means of garnering, controlling, and appeasing the gods. When you're celebrating Thanksgiving, you're appeasing the Greek and Roman gods, right? In order to encourage fertility. It says, however, the abundance of crops was not only the concern of the Greeks. Due to their ever-expanding empire, they needed an ample supply of men to maintain their military commitments. Now, we know that in the Apocrypha, it talked about our men fighting in the Greek wars, being forced to convert to the Greek ways, just like the same thing with Paul being a Roman citizen. Just like the Roman eunuchs. These men were forced into these militaries, or as we see in modern day Israel, like with our people that left America and went over there, they had to serve in the Israeli military to receive rights, right? Which is all a trap and destruction, right? And it says, and they needed women to produce the much coveted male citizens, as such as Demeter, goddess of harvest, was the chief fertility deity who was honored for her role in both crop and human fertility. Let me see if I want to drop down to something else on this. Whoops. Let's see. Okay, my screen just froze on me. Okay. All right, my screen is freezing up on me. So let me drop back over here. Let me stop the screen share, right? I'm trying to stop the screen share, but my screen is freezing up on me. Okay. Okay, right. So when you go into these things, right, we understand that Thesmophoria was a fertility harvest. And if I didn't have my screen freezing up, it would give you the different examples in the historical writings of the Greeks that when the men tried to interfere or whatever, they put them to death. They stabbed them up. We saw the instruments of death, right? So why would they use instruments of death other than to what? Commit death, murder, kill, right? So when we go into this history and we look at what was going on at that time, the feminist movement, there was a lot of it was also a sexual cult, a lesbianism cult, right? And they did a lot of abominable things during those times to harm.
Froze up again. Yeah,
Let
you
me
froze
see
up
if
for a
it
minute,
stopped
but you go
freezing
ahead.
up.
You good
Okay,
now.
cool. I know I've been having some connection issues, right? Let me see. All right, Con King. Let me see something. Where I want to go. All right, Con, I'm gonna go back to my screen share real quick. And let's see, where's I want? No, that's not what I'm looking for. No. All right. So this is going right back into it,
Tell me
right?
what you think the most systemic racist issue is. What is
Wait
it?
a minute.
Well, I would say that because black people, in many cases, were descendants of
I got
slaves,
something
that
in the background.
racism as an institution, that it just a
2015.
certain amount of it just exists.
2015.
That is
Give me the most blatant racist
here it is,
example
right
you
here. I
can come up
see
with
it.
right now.
I see what's going on.
I think you could
I just found
probably
it.
find evidence that
Okay, yeah, I'm having some issues over here. My screen is freezing up on me. All right, maybe this will stop, kill that. Make sure I know other YouTube windows open. Yeah, I'm getting real horrible reception right now. I don't know why. Okay, let me see. Okay, come. All right, so I got that out the way. Let me get back to my screen share real quick. Salakia. So what I wanted to show you guys just a little bit about more of this Greek history in regards to what they were celebrating, right? Let me see. Is this it? All right, I think this is it.
Yeah, I think Balthazar is having issues with his camera. So I'm gonna continue on. So I'm gonna give you a little history myself until he comes back. But I'm gonna continue, until he gets back. I'm gonna give you a little bit what I have here. I have this book here called, if you can see it, it's called. Can you see the other one?
Con, it's clear.
Okay, it says.
Go ahead, King.
You want me to go or you gonna go?
No, go. No, I mean, obviously you picked up. So, how about this? Let's hold that real quick, and then I'll let you deal with the American.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, other one. Yeah.
Salaki, I had something playing in the background. I guess it was one of them advertisements, and I hated that. So, Salakia. All righty, where am I at? Okay, this is chapter 1, and this is called Demeter's Daughters: How the Myth of the Captured Bride Have Spurned Feminine Consciousness. Right, thought to have been composed around 650 to 500 BCE. The Homeric hymn to Demeter is one of the series of 33 Homeric hymns which honor individual deities. They're called Homeric not necessarily because they were written by Homer, but because they deploy the same epic matter he used in the Odyssey of the Iliad, right? So there's no record relating to the performance of this, right? So I'm just to drop down because that's not what I wanted. All right. The antecedent notion that leads up to the narrative found in Homeric hymn from Demeter. And if you remember in the other screen, the goddess of that time was Demeter, right? So it says, hereafter called the hymn is important as her story. Zeus, Lord of the gods. You see that? Zeus, the Lord of the god, rapes his sister Demeter. The product of that rape is Persephone, right? Also known as Kore the maiden. So when you go back into Theomosphoria, Demeter is the major god and Persephone is her sister, right? It says the maiden. They never married. Indeed, Zeus would have been husband to hundreds if he had to marry every person he raped. So the hymn begins with the reciting of Zeus' agreement with Hades, right? So when we're getting an understanding of this, that it goes back to the Greek gods, the Greek pantheon of gods, as far as that holy Theomosphoria holiday, which is modern day Thanksgiving, right? Which is a fertility cult, a fertility harvest to deal with women's fertility and their rebellion against their god Zeus, right? It says to be sure that his being an absentee father did not stop Zeus from arranging his marriage of his daughter, unbeknownst to either mother or daughter, or to his brother Hades, the lord of the underworld. One day, while Persephone was out picking flowers to her friend, the earth cleaved up, and Hades, on a horse drawn chariot, charged violently, snatching Persephone to be his wife in the underworld, right? So this is going into a little bit of the history of Demeter, right? Demeter was inconsolable. Finally, on a day, Tiamat, a pre-Olympian goddess, informed her of Persephone's rape, which she had seen with her own eyes. Seeking the guidance of Helios, the god of the sun, Demeter asked that he use his rays to help to determine who's behind the attack, right? So when we're going into all of this nonsense, it's dealing with women rebellion against men during the Greek customs. I guess they were raping the daughters and all of that in their pantheon, and this spurred the so-called underworld or religious movement of Thanksgiving or Themistophoria, right? Another thing that we have to understand that when we go into this history, it also goes back into ancient Greece, right? The pagan origins of Thanksgiving, right? It says that in America, it's believed that the first Thanksgiving took place in 1621, but this was not the first time people gathered to give thanks for the autumn harvest. In fact, people have been celebrating the harvest for millennia. Our Thanksgiving meal is just a modern incarnation reflecting these ancient celebrations of autumn abundance. Most of our modern holidays like Christmas, Easter, and let me just zoom my screen a little bit for the viewers. Most of our modern holidays like Christmas and Easter are a combination of pagan Christian traditions. Thanksgiving, on the other hand, does not have much of a Christian influence. Did y'all hear that, brothers and sisters? Thanksgiving doesn't have anything to do with your Christian beliefs or your Christian religion, right? It says, while Thanksgiving is not tied to any specific religion, its traditions are quite similar to a number of ancient pagan harvest celebrations. For example, in ancient Rome, they celebrated the holiday of Ceralia, which honored the harvest goddess of grain called Ceres. There are about 100 different harvest gods and goddesses from Greek and Roman cultures, so it's clear that celebrating the harvest season was a key feature of their spiritual beliefs. Harvest celebrations were vitally important during Celtic and Anglo-Saxon times. In Britain, these traditions evolved into a holiday called Harvest Home. Historically, the date of the Harvest Home differed each year as it was celebrated when all the autumn crops were finally harvested, right? So let me just drop down to some. It says right here, and it says, in addition to Harvest Home, a separate religious holiday called the Days of Thanksgivings was practiced in the Church of England, in which set people aside one religious day or they're choosing to give thanks to God. Now we got to remember something. Which God are they talking about? Which God? Are we talking about Demeter? Are we talking about Zeus? Are we talking about Hades? Are we talking about Caesarea? Which God are they talking about? It says we get the Thanksgiving from this Christian tradition, while feasting commonly associated with Thanksgiving and largely derives from Harvest Home celebrations, right? So let's go into some of these symbols, right? It said there are three symbols that are common to Thanksgiving celebration. The cornucopia, aka the horn of plenty, the turkey and the corn. All these symbols were viewed as a very important among pagan society. Let's begin with cornucopia, which was an important symbol in ancient Greece and Rome. A cornucopia is a home-shaped basket that is usually filled with harvest fruits and vegetables, right? The symbol goes back to a story from ancient Greece where a goat pulled off his horn and offered to the god Zeus. This was a magic horn that would refill indefinitely with food and drink, ensuring that Zeus would never go hungry. To give thanks to the goat, Zeus made the goat's image into knights, which became the constellation which we now the Capricorn, right? So here it is right here, this image right here. This is the image of the Capricorn, which goes back to the harvest holiday or harvest feast, the harvest of fruits and vegetables, right? It says cornucopia was also incorporated in statues and money across ancient Greece and was often used in representation of the goddess of grain Ceres and the goddess of luck Fortuna, right? Fortune, the wheel of fortune, the goddess of fortune. For all you gamblers, gambling away your life, trying to win the lottery, shaking the dice, trying to strike the lucky 7 to win that fortune, right? It says the cornucopia has made an appearance in American currency. After all, the cultural identity of early America is largely inspired by ancient and Greek culture and their systems of government. The next symbol I want to mention is the turkey, which is the centerpiece of the American Thanksgiving dinner. And this is where the brother's going to come in real quickly. Eventually, Ambassador Nawa. It says many Native American tribes view turkeys as a symbol of fertility and abundance, as a totem animal. Turkey reminds us of the importance of our relationship. Now, I'll attest to this. I'll tell you, brothers and sisters, to chew the meat, spit out the bones. There's no evidence that the Native Americans viewed the turkey as a symbol of fertility and abundance. But we know when they came over to America that they did not keep the commandments of the Most High. They did go into paganism and idolatry, right? It says, as a totem animal, turkey reminds us of the importance of our relationship with the land, as the land is our source of nourishment and sustenance, right? Turkey feathers are also viewed as especially important and are used in ritual wear and smudging ceremonies, right? So let's go back to this part right here. Sports, part 3. One last thing comes to mind when I consider modern day Thanksgiving celebration, that is football, right? So why would something like football be connected to a harvest meal? Well, Celtic pagan harvest festivals usually included some type of sport or competition. For example, during the harvest festival called Lungish Nasa, people would participate in the Celtian games, which included sports like archery, wrestling, and racing. Another famous Irish pagan harvest festival is Samhain, which is historically, and just to give you brothers and sisters an idea, that Samhain goes back into Halloween, right? And it says, which historically was the time to gather the whole tribe together for feasting and athletic competitions, right? So in other words, we understand that this is the paganism of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving has nothing to do with our history, our customs, or our traditions. It is a white man's holiday for worshiping their gods. A woman's holiday of being able to separate themselves from their husbands for 3 days in a cult-like gathering of nothing but women, with the murder and destruction of men who watched or interfered or tried to partake. If you know anything about the Greek islands or Greeks, you'll know about the goddess Diana, which is where you get your Wonder Woman character from in your Marvel comic books or your DC comic books. Wonder Woman, she was a Greek goddess, the goddess Diana, right? And if you know anything about those women, those Greek women, difficulties right now. Okay, Con, we're back. So let me see. Yeah, even with the chat, it's not working right. But anyway, as we see with these things, and we get this understanding of what the origins are of all of these things, we should know, as being awakened, the children of Israel in the last days, where the scripture says that in the last days we'll start naming ourselves Jacob and Israel and all those things that the scriptures are stating that we would do. This is our awakening and our refreshing. So when you're dealing with your family members saying, hey, we keep Thanksgiving for the family, we get together, the Most High gave us the Shabbat, a weekly holy day, which is every 7 days, a holy gathering.
I don't want us having some technical difficulties. So just to land me back on what he was bringing out, I just want to go to a scripture. I go to the book of Proverbs. I'm going to go into chapter 3. I'm going to read verse 6.
Another one.
Proverbs chapter 4, verse 6. It says, forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Verse 7. Wisdom, that's the her that's being referenced in verse 6. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So the brother is bringing out a lot of history, a lot of valuable information. He's connecting the dots for what all these pagan rituals that we're doing, where they actually stem from, and what the symbolism is behind the turkey, behind the Thursday turkey bowl, so on and so forth. He's giving you the understanding and the history of it. So the wisdom that you're getting, you could connect the dots to understand that these pagan rituals, they symbolize something more than just a family gathering. And I'm gonna bring one more scripture out and I'll turn it back over. I'm gonna go to Proverbs chapter 3 and 31. It says, "To envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways." Because now that you know where all of these symbols, where these traditions, where these rituals come from, you know that they don't come from us. It has nothing to do with the children of God. So you should want to have nothing to do with them whatsoever. So now that you know this, then you should move forward and with understanding. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Ambassador Yabatazar.
Khan Adawan Khan, and I apologize. I'm getting some horrible reception over here. I didn't hear everything that you brought out, but I already know that it was in spirit, you know. Let's jump over to the book. Let's go over to Romans 14 and 5. Right, so I just want to read Romans 14 and 5. It says, "One man esteemeth one day above another. Another man esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be persuaded fully." Salakia, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. So the question is, we're not here to prove anything to you. We just want to put the information out to you. It's like the scripture says, you're going to be persuaded in your own mind. And the scriptures clearly tells us not to lean onto our own understanding, right? So now we know about the sex cult, the feminist movement, the pagan origins of Thanksgiving, where it comes from, which is an Indo-European pagan day for worshiping their various gods, the pantheon of the Greek and the Roman gods. If you know anything about the Greek and the Roman gods, they're all the same gods. It's just that one language, the Romans called them by one name, but the Greeks called them by another name, and then they all got their names or those gods or goddesses from Egypt and other cultures, right? But I'll go ahead and digress. Sergeant Awa, you want to jump in real quick for me, bro? Go ahead with what you got.
Kind of one, beautiful. Great lesson on history, brother. I got a little bit more history. I want to, like I was saying, I wanted to go into this book here. It's called The First Americans, right? The First Americans, right? And it says here on page 28, right? It says the effects of English and French colonization, right? And it says the idyllic image of a Thanksgiving feast. Idyllic. IDYLLIC, right? Which means extremely happy. The idyllic image of Thanksgiving, of a Thanksgiving feast, in which Native Americans and white settlers celebrated a successful harvest season. It says also belies mean spelled BELIES, meaning contradict, okay, falsify, cover the often bloody and most deadly effects of French and English colonization on the natives of North America, right? All these images that they put up, it looks like it's glorified, it's beautiful, right? They make it seem like it's the whites and the so-called natives got along with each other, which they did not. Okay, the first feast, yes, it says it here. It says the first feast probably did take place. The first feast did. Okay, I'm gonna get Psalms 55 and 20 right quick. Psalms 55 and 20. I ain't gonna be long. Not gonna be long. Let me get Psalms 55 and 20. Shalakia.
I'll read for you, other one.
Okay, come. The water, other one. Psalms 55 and 20.
Count out of one. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 20.
Mhm.
He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant.
See that? So it says he has put forth his hand. You cannot trust this white man, no matter what. Okay? When he puts the handshake out, when he takes his hand and he puts it out there, be very cautious about it. Because he's the devil. He's the devil that the Bible speaks of. Period. Okay? Read on. Salakia.
21.
He always break his covenant. He breaks his covenant. When he came to the shores of America, he broke his covenant with the so-called Native Americans. Read on.
Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter,
Mm-hmm.
but war was in his heart.
Repeat that, Adawan. Repeat the whole thing.
Words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart.
Stop right there. So you know an enemy, right? I don't care if that's dealing with your brothers. You know what I'm saying? What they say, they try to be smooth with you. Okay? They try to be delicate with you. But in their mind, what are they thinking? They're thinking to backstab you. They're thinking to remove you from off your square, from off your post. Okay? This is how they think. This is an enemy. This is a person that's against you. The Most High called them our enemy, the white man, right? So you have to understand what you're up against. But being we're from the Most High, Yahweh, who's a kind, delicate person, he's long suffering and things like that. We have that in us to be that way. We are a nice people. We give people chances over and over again and again, no matter how they treat us. That's why we keep celebrating Thanksgiving. So we
right.
messed up in the head. We love these people. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to give them a chance to change. We think we can change them. This is how we think. And it's crazy, right?
All right.
So read that from the top again. I don't want that 21. And then read on.
Count out of one. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, starting at verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter,
Mm-hmm.
but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
See, he draws sword. That's what he about to do. He about to draw his sword, and he's about to do what? He about to kill you. The Most High created this person. He knows what an enemy is. The Most High called them our enemies in Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. These are our enemies. Right? So he's telling you what they're about. They put that sword. He called them their sword, right? Don't he call them the sword?
That's right.
Get that right quick. Deuteronomy 27, verse 40. Because this is Esau. We know him as Esau in the Bible. The red man. Okay? War is in his heart. That's what he do. He kills. He murders.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter
27, verse 40.
I don't want. That's you might be 25.
Blah, blah, blah.
What you thought? You mean 25?
Nope.
27.
27 verse.
Okay. Oh, you mean Genesis 27.
It's Genesis 27. My fault. Genesis 27. So like it, Genesis 27 verse 4.
I knew where you was going. I just you up a little bit. All right. 27 and verse 40. And by thy sword shall thou live,
Mm-hmm.
and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
See that? By thy sword. By thy sword. He's the sword. Okay? He's the one that's doing what? The killing today. Today
right.
He's doing the killing. You know what I'm saying? The Most High call him his sword, right? So go back to 55. My fault. So, Psalms 55. Let's let's read that one more time.
Psalms 55, verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
That's what he do. He came to talk to him sweetly with his lips. He knew what he had. He knew. Like, yo, I'm about to take this land over with. You can't trust the devil, man. You can't trust the devil. You can't trust this white man. He's a deceiver, right? So let me read on with this here in this book here. It says the feast probably did take place. It probably did. You know what I'm saying? They probably did have a nice little feast, and because we are that type of people. Okay. And it says a result of the sheltering of the Plymouth colony by Chief Massasoit of the Wampanoag tribe in 1621, who was seeking allies against the enemy, the Narragansett. From the early exploration by England's John Cabot at the end of the 15th century, North America became a prize to be competed over by England, France, and to a lesser extent, other European countries. So they knew what they was coming to. New land, you know what I'm saying? Like the Apocrypha, they knew what was in the Apocrypha. They read the Apocrypha, right? They knew this, okay? So it says, even before colonization began, European explorers and fishermen who dropped anchor along the Atlantic coast and entered its inlets became a source of curiosity and deceit for the American natives. The problem of disease was aggravated as France and England, seeing the riches of gold and silver and other valuables brought from the New World by the Spanish, like Yabatazar was talking about. He was talking about, the French and the English, right? They did. He brought up the early history. I'm bringing out the later history, down the road a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So it says they saw that these, that these people were bringing back gold and all these different things, man, from the different areas. It's like, oh man, we gotta have it. You know what I'm saying? If you see something isn't that what the white man does? Doesn't he go search out and colonize different nations in different places? You know what I'm saying? Look at what he's doing to Africa. He's raping Africa right now. Them and China. They're raping them. But that's what they do. And that's what they wanted from over here. But being us, we don't see that as a people. We don't see that they have an agenda. You know what I'm saying? They don't see that, right? So we so passive, and we just, hey, we just all just get along. Let's just love one another. You know what I'm saying? That's what we be doing. That's history. So it says for the American natives, right? It says the problem of disease was aggravated as France and England, seeing the riches of gold, silver, and other valuables brought from the New World by the Spanish galleons they captured, created charter companies to colonize North America. They colonized North America, right? It says England first claimed a colony in Newfoundland. Newfoundland. That's up in Canada. There was natives in Canada also. Newfoundland. All of that was together. Remember, we connected. They had all this. They had from South America all the way up to Canada. This is where they were. All right. We got streets and stuff around here that's named after Iroquois and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Up north here. You know what I mean? And it says in 1583, to aid its fishing interests there, the Virginia Company, led by Sir Walter Raleigh, was granted a charter by Queen Elizabeth the First. Queen Elizabeth the First, right? Oh, which, with the provision of being able to take any land, she gave a provision out to take any land, right? Any land inhabited by non-Christians. Ain't that something? Non-Christians, right? Because that's what they brought forth. They had to put this God up. They had to, in order to brainwash the people. So they had to put this image up to say, hey, if they don't worship us, because that's basically what she's saying, because Christianity is what? What is it? It's the white man's religion.
Right? White supremacy, basically.
White supremacy. There you go.
Hey, let me do a quick favor, right? Because you touching on this, I got to do it. I got something to show. I want you to continue on with your wisdom, but let me just share something real quick. I don't know if y'all can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Can y'all see that?
Come on, one.
The Lord's most wanted, Caesar Borgia, son of the Pope Alexander the Sixth of Rome, for posing as Christ. Crime, mental terrorism, identity theft. Date of offense 1492 to the present. For many shall come in the name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Mark 13:6. Go ahead, King. Go ahead.
That's right. That's right. They wanted you to worship them. That's how you change. First of all, you got to change the language, right? You have to come in. You got to change the language. You got to change those things. Change their culture. Change their way of life. So easily, little by little, that's what they did. They came in and changed their beliefs and things like that. No, we're your God. You know what I'm saying? That's how they brainwash you. Same thing with us. When we came here, what they do? They changed the language. They changed all of that. They changed our heritage. Remove all that from us.
Come.
Right? It says, with the provision of being able to take any land inhabited by non-Christians. That's the authority of Queen Elizabeth. The colony, which was established on Roanoke Island, now part of North Carolina, in 1585, lasted only 3 years. Its survivors captured or meddled into the local native population, right? It says the next attempt by the Virginia Company would be at Jamestown in 1607. The difficult conditions nearly led the colony to founder. Among their troubles were attacks by warriors from the Pamunkey and other members of the 200 village Powhatan Confederacy. The colony survived in part when the Confederation's leader, Powhatan, made peace with the Virginia Company after his daughter, Pocahontas. Pocahontas. See, a lot of people think Pocahontas is just this, this fairy tale. Pocahontas was a real person, right? Was a real person. Here's some history on it right here at the top. It says Pocahontas was born Matawaka, but her father, the powerful chief Powhatan, 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 referred to her as Pocahontas, Pakahantes, meaning my favorite daughter. Captain John Smith claimed that the teenage girl put herself between him and the executioner's axe when Smith was a Powhatan captive. Whether or not this is true, she became the most famous Native American female among Europeans in the 17th century. In 1612, she was held hostage by the English and fell in love with. Who do you think she fell in love with?
That's crazy.
She fell in love with an Edomite, right? After her father went to war with these Edomites. Is that crazy? Is that not? I mean, that's nuts, right? It says Powhatan kept peace with the colonists. Matter of fact, let me go back up. It says in 1612 she had held hostage. She was held hostage by the English and fell in love with and married the colonist John Rolfe, Rolfe. Hopefully I was, pronouncing that right. Powhatan kept peace with the colonists until his death in 1618. Pocahontas became a Christian. Pocahontas became a Christian, right? Sailed to England and was presented to the court of King Charles the First, but died of what? Smallpox. She died of smallpox in 1617 before returning to the colonies. Her son, Thomas Rolfe, was one of the most powerful leaders of colonial Virginia. See that? It's crazy, man. Absolutely nuts how we think. We think if we get along with these people, and if we get together with these people, we're going to save and get, everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be all right. And look what they did. They put smallpox within her. You see that? That's crazy. So let me jump down. It says, I'm going to jump down a little bit.
Hey, Salaki Adawan, hey, you were talking about just a little while ago about them when they came over to these lands, right? And, the false treaties and things of that nature and, the deceptive way. So let me just get on Psalms 49 and 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says,
you got
that?
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. It says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own name. So pretty much when you go into the scriptures, whenever these heathens go across conquering other nations and lands, they name those lands after themselves and force their languages, customs, and all of that upon the people, which is why this brother is eloquently breaking down what happened to the sister Pocahontas and the rest of the indigenous tribes of America. But go ahead, King.
Con. And they conquered, you know what I'm saying? This is, what they do. They colonize different areas of the world. And then they put their name there, they put their flag up and all that. And say this is what it is. That's why you have 55 different flags in every land, right? Because that's what they do. They say, look, we conquered this land. We ain't steal this land. We conquered it. We colonized it. You could have fought back, but no, we were better than you, so we took it. This is how they think. That's why we have to fight back. This is our enemy. We have to understand that, right? It says in the 17th century, right, the French began to found colonies in what is now Nova Scotia and at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. New France took on permanence when Samuel D. Champlain established Quebec in 1608. At that time, the powerful Huron tribe controlled the area. Huron tribe. That's the name. It's still over there too. In Michigan, it's called the Huron tribe, right? It's called Huron, Port Huron, this and that, right? So it says the French brought Catholic missionaries with them. The French brought Catholic missionaries with them. See that? But it would be many years before they obtained any converts to the Catholic religion. Hallelujah. I wish they would have stayed like that. You know what I'm saying? It says, as French influence spread over Eastern Canada, right? Fur trading quickly became a valuable industry. See that? The Iroquois Confederacy was being ruled by the Dutch, who were establishing their own colonial settlements in the Hudson River Valley. Competition between the English of the rapidly expanding colonies of the New England and the Dutch caused the Iroquois to wage war on neighboring tribes. Look at that. They took money, the fur, which is money, okay? Use that because now they colonize in these areas, you know what I'm saying? They're establishing themselves. Took the Iroquois, and now the Iroquois is fighting against other tribes. What did that sound like today? Sound like Chicago to me.
Con.
Sound like Detroit to me. Sound like Cleveland to me.
Yeah, the east side of Cleveland, East 99.
You know what I'm saying? Sound,
Con.
Like
They not-
South Central LA.
there you go.
It-
That's what it sound like.
that's what it sounds like.
It sounds like they pinning the people against one another. They're making them go against each other. This is what they do, man.
Con.
It's crazy, right? I got a little bit more than I'm done. It says they attacked the tribes to the south, including the Delaware, and to the north, challenging the Huron along the St. Lawrence and conquering the Erie in 1654. French traders established posts in the Great Lakes region to extend their trade and power. French, look at that, man. That's crazy. It says raids and devastating wars broke out in other areas of the colonies as the European powers used intertribal warfare to consolidate their own gains in power and land, as occurred during the War of the Spanish Succession. That is nuts. It's telling you right here in this book what they did. And our people continue to love these people, man, and they will not read a book. We need to start opening up these books, man, and start reading them so we understand what happened to our people. Don't black people call themselves Indians? What they say, they got Indian in my family.
Got Indian in my family. Con.
You know what I'm saying? Look at me. Look at how what was that dude name? Eddie, what's his name? That comedian, Eddie
Griffin.
Yeah, Eddie Griffin. Look how he look. He's an Indian. You know, all these people, they don't check their history. They don't care. Because why? Money.
If you look at Salak, if you look at a lot of people from New Orleans, man, you know what I mean, and you look at the facial and the bone structure of a lot of people from New Orleans, you know, you could tell that they have heavy native blood.
Gone. Let me show you this right quick. Let me show you this. This is in this book, right? Those people, if you can see it, those
just pull it back just a little bit. Right there, perfect.
Those so-called Native Americans is what? Look how dark they are, bro. And I'm not saying color is what it is, because you know you have something like this. You know what I'm saying? But you have different tribes, just like we have different tribes. Different tribes look different, right? Cherokees, things like that. These are Cherokees right here. Okay. Black, dark. They weren't killing white folks. 70 million? Come on. It was killing niggas, dark people. All right. So that's pretty much all I have, Adawan. I'm gonna turn that over to Ambassador Zion. All right.
Kind of just to let me back off a lot of some of the information you brought out, you know, because we hear our people a lot of times when we start speaking these facts and we start talking about the condition that our people are in and the reason behind what's going on in our communities, and you have people outside of our communities, and then you got a few tokens within our communities as well that may have found some sort of success, or they've been accepted in certain areas or arenas in life, and they'll say, well, you got to change your conditions and so on and so forth. But why are we placed in these conditions anyway? You just brought out how the crabs ended up inside of the bucket for us to cool one another down.
Con.
You see what I'm saying? We should have never even been in the bucket, because the Most High created the world for our sake. So we should have been spread out and had our own place. So when they say you have a crab in the bucket mentality, how did I get in the bucket? You have to look further. You have to look past the situation. And a lot of times, as you brought out about Pocahontas with the what she had was a condition called Stockholm syndrome, where you have empathy, or you fall in love, or you have love for someone that's oppressing you.
So, Lucky, let me just say this one thing. She's not Esther. You know what I'm saying? She's not Esther. Esther did a whole different job. You know what I mean? Esther was like, yo, my people over here, you gonna take care of my people. You know
That's
what I mean?
right. That's right.
So
that's right. So that's why we got to look at the entire picture. You can't just focus on one section of the picture. You have to look at the entire picture. You know, like you said, those Europeans, or so-called Europeans, they were in competition with one another. They were not fighting against each other. They made conditions uncomfortable or oppress, or put us in a state of oppression to where we started preying on one another, because they took the resources from us in order for us to live comfortably. And what they did was they competed to see who was going to oppress these people. But the oppression still came from outside of our community, from outside of our nation. But I just want to get a scripture real quick. Go to Sirach 12, and I want you to read 10. Read 10. Start at verse 10.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10. And it reads, never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
So we all know who the enemy is. You know, we have multiple levels of enemies, but the ultimate enemy is who? Esau. For what reason? Because he has a perpetual hatred for Jake. Not just Judah, not just Benjamin, not just Levi, for Manasseh, for Joseph, Ephraim,
Gad,
Naphtali, Gad. He has a perpetual hatred for Jacob. So they'll go into competition with one another to see who's going to be the one to kill Jake, to oppress Jake, right?
Right.
Read verse 11, another one.
It's the book of Ecclesiasticus 12, verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away.
So although he's going to humble himself, as you brought out in Psalms 55, that his words are going to be smooth, he's going to be persuasive, he's going to act like he's empathetic, that he's there to help. Although he humbles himself, you're going to see that in the end, he's really preying on your downfall. He's going to stab you in the back one way or another. Read verse 12.
The book of Ecclesiasticus 12, verse 12. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. So
as you brought out, you said maybe they did have a feast together originally. But once they sat down together, what happened after that? What happened after that? He overthrew the ones that helped him survive. They helped him maneuver the land, to help him understand navigation and how to survive in this area, because he was not able to survive here. So what did he do? He overthrew them and took their seat once they let him sit at the table with him. Read verse 13, I don't want.
God, it's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 13. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts?
Just as you brought out earlier. And he says, well, we conquered this land. We didn't steal it, we conquered it. We went to war and we won. So therefore it belongs to us. So that's why you have other people that'll tell us you got to pull yourself up from your bootstraps.
Right.
You gotta get educated. You can change your conditions, right? Because who's gonna pity someone? Who's gonna pity a charmer who's playing with a snake and get bitten? Right?
Yep.
So I want to go into what you were bringing out about the a little bit of history as well. I think you stopped around around 1600.
Salaki, Adawan. Salaki. I don't mean to interrupt you. But keep reading, Adawan.
Go ahead, read.
It says, for a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. Right? It says, and the enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
That's right.
He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. See that?
That's right. He's not satisfied with blood.
He's not satisfied because he wants all of it. He wants your jewelry.
Want it all.
He wants everything. He want to conquer you, man. He want to colonize you. He want to make you what? A slave to him.
He wants your identity. He wants your customs.
Everything.
He wants everything that you possess.
Everything. You know?
He's not just satisfied with killing you.
Mm-hmm.
He want to take everything that you have.
Yep. That's it.
Did you want to read the last two, or you want to stop there?
We can stop there, Adawan.
God, I don't want. Okay. So as I was saying, I think that you stopped around the 1600s with the history that you had brought out, right? So I'm going to go a little further into the 1700s. We can't trust our enemies. And that's the mistake that we constantly make over and over and over again. And that's what happened to our Native American brothers in the past. We made over 368 treaties with these people, and they broke each and every one of them in shorter span than 100 years. I believe it was from 1778 to 1871. Over 368 treaties were signed documentation into law, right? It started with let me get the information so I could be more accurate.
And you know what? I can share my screen too on this whole topic too. So go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. What you got, King?
All right, 1 second. Let me bring it out. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm going, Adawan. That's exactly where I'm going.
Con.
All right. So, it started with the Treaty of Fort Pitt in 1778. From 1778 went to the Treaty of Greensville. But then President Andrew Jackson, he brought into law where you could remove Indians off of the land. The same thing you said that the Queen of England did, right? Was able to remove the inhabitants or the natives off of their land, regardless of the treaty that was signed, regardless of the peace treaty that was signed. And then that's where you get the battle at Fort Knox. You get the Battle of Fort Knox. Scroll down a little bit more. I want to get down to some of the more infamous battles between the natives and the colonizers. I want you to go down to the Battle of Little Bighorn.
Okay, battle. Let me just undo this real quick. Let me see if it'll pull it up this way quicker. But if not, I'll go the regular way. Okay, here it is, right here. Cut.
You got that? Okay. I'm just going let me see. Icon. Let me find that on my end so that I could read it. So that's after the Battle of Greensville and Fort Knox, huh?
Con.
All right. Well, I'm just going to read from Andrew Jackson and the Indian Removal Act of 1830.
Okay, let me get there with you. I just had that. Give me a second. Let me get there. Let me go there so they can follow along on screen.
Huh? You just want to scroll up just a little bit.
I got it right here.
Hey, Sergeant Yabatazar, can you expand that screen? Can you expand it a little bit?
Is it too? Is this better or bigger?
No, you're making it smaller.
Okay.
Go the other way. If you can. If you can't, don't worry about it.
Now I got it up to 150. Is that better right there?
That's
Okay,
good.
Yeah, you can see that a little bit. Yeah.
Con other one. And I'm
Okay.
assuming just a little higher just to see if I get better resolutions. See if it catches up. Okay, go ahead.
All right, Andrew Jackson and the Indian Removal Act of 1830. It says over the decade 1814 to 1824 that Andrew Jackson served as federal commissioner. He negotiated 9 out of 11 treaties signed with Native American tribes in the Southeast, including the Choctaws, Chickasaws, Creeks, Seminoles, and Cherokees, in which the tribes gave up a total of 50 million acres of land. Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky, and North Carolina. Elected president in 1828, Jackson spearheaded the Indian Removal Act of 1830 through Congress, by which the U.S. government granted land west of the Mississippi to Native tribes to agree to give up their homelands. So right here, he told them that if they moved west and give up their homelands, that they would be able to live in peace. Through removal was supposed to be voluntary, but in practice, Jackson used threats and withheld payments of legal and military action to conclude nearly 70 removal treaties over the course of his presidency, opening up some 25 million acres of land in the South to white settlement and to slavery. Y'all see that? He went against over 70 treaties that were signed. Let's say Sirach 12, never trust thy enemies.
Con.
Never trust thy enemies. I want to bring a scripture real quick. Give me Daniel chapter 8 real quick. The book of Daniel chapter 8, and I want somebody to read verse 25. Because these were supposed to be peace treaties. They said that they would give up the land that they were inhabiting in order to have their own area and be able to live there in peace and to prosper, to farm the land, to grow their animals, and to survive.
Con. I got you.
These are what they call peace treaties. So Daniel chapter 8, verse 25.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace shall destroy many. He shall also... Go ahead.
Slow down. Read. Start at the top one more time.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
Stop right there. So through his policies, he's going to use craftiness through his policies in order for him to win. That's what that's saying. Read on, other one.
And he shall magnify himself in his heart.
And he's going to make himself more important than you. Read.
And by peace shall destroy many.
And by peace, by signing peace treaties, saying that you're going to be able to live in peace, he's going to destroy many. By convincing them through smooth words that he's going to be at peace with them. And what is he going to do? He's going to overthrow them. Read on, Adawan.
And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
So he going to stand up against the children of God, but in the end, he going to be broken at hand. You know what? I'm going to go with the spirit right quick. Give me, let's go to Ezekiel 35 real quick.
Kind of the one.
Let's go to Ezekiel 35.
Bring it out, Adawan. Bring it out. Hey, when you get down, I want to bring out something too, Adawan.
Okay, Ken, give me a second.
Kind of the one. Kind.
So at the end of that, at Daniel 8:25, he say, but at the end, he gonna be broken, huh?
Kind.
So let's go to the prophecy of that. Let's go to Ezekiel 35. I want you to start at verse 4.
Kind. We're in the book of Ezekiel.
Salak, I don't want. Let's see who this is talking to first. Read verse 2, and then I want you to drop down to verse 4.
Okay, Ezekiel 35:2. Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it.
So this is talking to the Edomite. This is the Most High talking to the Edomite. Drop down to verse 4. I don't want.
Verse 4, I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know I am the Most High.
Read verse 5.
Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end.
Stop right there. So we all know the scriptures are twofold a lot of the times. This is past, this is history, this is also present day, and this is also prophecy of what's to come. Read on, Adawan.
I will therefore, as I live, saith the Most High thy power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee.
Read on.
Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passes out, and him that returneth.
So all of the blood that Esau has shed throughout the earth, he hasn't hated blood, so blood is going to pursue him. We try to call everybody else, give everybody else the characteristics of what he is. You understand what I'm saying? He tried to say everybody else is violent, everybody else is a thief, everybody else is a murderer. But that's exactly what he is. When you want to talk about being a thief, who's colonized more people than the so-called white man? Who's colonized more people than Esau? Who's invaded more lands? How come every time that the U.S. military goes into another land, before they leave, there's military bases, U.S. military bases set up and left there.
God,
So for Esau, it's the sword. He's the sword. He lived by the sword. That's his blessing.
God,
We went to that earlier, right? Okay.
God, another name for them people is called troglodytes. If you want another name to address them as, is a troglodyte. And let me just show you something real quick. And I'm gonna give it back to Ambassador Zion. I just want y'all to understand who these people are, right? This is the definition of a troglodyte. A member or any of various people as in captivity who lived or were reputed to live chiefly in caves. A person characterized by reclusive habits or outmoded or reactionary attitudes. So pretty much it's saying that a troglodyte is a person who lived in a cave. So when we're dealing with these beastly minded people, you got to understand where they come from. Out of the caves of Mount Seir. Go ahead, King.
Yeah, I've heard of that term before. So let's go back to it. We're talking about the sword and the conquering and his characteristics. Sergeant Nawab brought it out before. We're gonna go back to it. Let's revisit it. Let's go back to Genesis 27 real quick.
Okay, let's finish up verse 8 real quick, and then we'll go from there. Ezekiel 35:8. Because this is the judgment coming, the prophecy. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men, and in the hills, and in the valleys, in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword.
Read verse 9.
Count out of one count. And I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy city shall not return, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh.
That's right. So
Can I say something right quick?
it's going to end. Go ahead.
Right quick. It says in verse 8, it says, and shall they fall that are slain with the sword, right? He's going to take that sword that they so great with and put it on their own self. Mosiah is going to turn it around. You feel what I'm saying? Right. He's going to put it on their own head. Mosiah is going to make it so that they can feel the sword also. Whatever you did to us is going to come back on you. Bottom line.
Does not the scripture say that the fill their cup double?
Fill the cup double. You know what I'm saying?
You know,
it says also in Corinthians, you know what I'm saying, 3:25, it says what you do to someone, it's gonna come back on to you. You know what I'm saying? Also in what is it, Ephesians? Is it Ephesians? Or Galatians 6 and 7, right? Galatians 6 and 7 says, let me read that right quick. Just right quick, other one. And it says, be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That's it.
Right. That's right.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever he sowed, he's gonna reap it. So he took the sword and put it on us. Guess what? That same sword is gonna be on you, Adawan.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's you know, that's what they call karma. That's what they call what comes around goes around, right?
Con.
So the sword, that was his blessing. That was Esau's blessing, right? Let's revisit that. You brought it out earlier. Let's look a little bit deeper into it. Go back to Genesis 27 real quick. Genesis 27, I want to start at 38.
You got it on Zion? Now why you want me to get it?
I'll read it.
Okay, come.
Genesis 27, start at verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me.
I got it. It's like it. I'll read it for you. It
Go
says,
ahead,
Genesis 27, verse 38. It reads, it says, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of the heaven from above. Verse 40. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
Read 41.
Verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of the mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob.
And hasn't that what Esau's been doing to Jacob ever since?
God.
Sowing and slaying Jacob. We just brought out that perpetual hatred. Right here in 41, it say Esau hated Jacob. But then we went to Ezekiel 35, where it showed you that he had a perpetual hatred. The word perpetual means ongoing, never ending. He has a never ending hatred for Jacob.
Right.
So how did he get all of this land? How did he end up living or dwelling on the fatness of the earth? By the sword, right? Because you got to think about it, man. I mean, No matter how much credit Esau likes to take, no matter how much credit or how smart the white man thinks that he is, he has never invented anything outside of long-range weapons and pharmaceutical drugs. That's it. And both are used for warfare, right?
Yeah.
You know, you try to say that other people that we're murderers, that we're evil, that we're thieves. No, he's stolen whole nations of people.
Mm.
Like, come on, man. He stole a nation of people. He stole continents of land.
Mm.
And when it comes to bloodshed or murder or killing, come on, man. Look at Margaret Sanger. Look at Margaret Sanger, man. How many deaths has been at the hand of Jacob or tribes of Israel at the hands of Planned Parenthood?
Million.
Just think about it. Even today, look at the CDC or the FDA that they approve for bad foods to come into our community and plague us with cancer, with diabetes, with high blood pressure. These are all other ways that they're killing Jacob because of their perpetual hatred for us. You could just look at the distribution of birth control, bro. The distribution of birth control pills, I believe, is reached, I think, 20 billion birth control pills.
But they have new methods.
He's gonna make his ways crafty.
Right. They got new methods like the shot. You can take a shot and it'll hold it down for a year. You know what I'm saying? That you don't have to have birth.
All crafty counsel. Yeah. It's all crafty counsel to kill who? Jake, right?
Okay.
They try to say
Jake. Let's get that right quick. Can we get that?
What's that?
Psalms 83.
Let's go there.
Because you just brought out Esau, right? Esau is the father of the Edomites. Psalms 83. Right. Let's go to Psalms 83. Bring that out right quick. Because you're bringing up crafty counsel. So we gotta let the people know. It's the book of Psalms 83. When we start at 1, or you want to keep?
Go ahead. I'm gonna read it. I want you to you break it down.
Go ahead, other one.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 83, verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
To start right there, it says, for lo, thy enemies. Remember I was talking about our enemies earlier? I was explaining who the enemy was. If you go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, right, in the Bible, right, it tells you who our enemy was. They're going to bring us over on ships. On ships. They're going to bring us over here on ships to Egypt. Egypt is spiritual.
That's right.
The same Egypt is spiritual. Okay?
That's right.
So he said our enemies make a tumult. They come together, they come together as a congregation, they come together and plot against us. And they that hate thee have lifted up thy head. Read on.
Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones.
This whole Bible is about the children of Israel, man. The hidden ones, okay? The hidden ones against thy people. Who's God's people? If you go to Matthew, is it 2 and 6?
That's right.
Matthew 2 and 6, it says who his people is.
That's right.
Okay? So they're taking captive counsel against thy hidden ones. Who his people? Thy people? The Most High's people is the Israelites. Read on.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
That's what they're trying to do. Cut us off. They don't want us because they know that we are more advanced people. We are a special people. Deuteronomy 7 and 6 calls us special. We're more advanced. If you go to Genesis 25 and 20, what 23?
Yep.
It
Start
tells
around
you that
23.
we're stronger, we're better than all these other nations, man. Okay, read on.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
That's what they then they do that. That's what happened, right?
That's exactly what happened. That's why we call ourselves African Americans today.
There you go.
That's why we call ourselves black. That's why we call ourselves Negroes. That's why we call ourselves thugs,
Mexicans.
savages.
You don't call ourselves Benjamin, do we?
Nope,
Call ourselves Levi.
not unless that's what your mama names you. That's
Right.
you know what I mean. That's the only way you gonna call yourself
Con.
because you don't
Con.
understand that, right?
Con.
I want to
Right.
jump back. I want to jump back into a little bit of history of the treaties being broken, right?
Hey,
Go
real
ahead, go
quick,
ahead.
real quick, King, if you don't mind, real quick. Hey, just to let me back off what some of you brothers said, and I'm just jumping in real quick because I can't fade in. My internet is horrible over here. So one of the things that the brother Maya from AOC dropped was on Revelations 18:6, which goes back into when you brothers were bringing out what you sow, right? Revelations 18:6 says reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she has filled to her double, right? So I was sitting here struggling because I heard this precept just recently, and I struggled to find it, but I found it. So let me get this right? This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 5 and 40, and it reads, Then said he unto me, like as thou canst do none of these things that I have spoken of, even so canst thou not find out my judgment, or in the end that love that I have promised to my people? And behold, and I said, Behold, O Yahweh, yet art thou near unto them that be reserved till the end. And what shall they do that have been before me, or we that now be now, meaning those that exist this day, right? Or they that shall come after us. In verse 42, and he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring.
Full circle.
Karma, what goes around comes around. What you reap is what you sow. The Most High in 2nd Ezra 5 and 42, and he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto. All right. It says unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring, like as there is no slackness of the last, even so there is no swiftness of the first. So pretty much this is just proof that what you reap is what you sow. What the nations did to the 12 tribes of Israel, whether this brother down here talking about some happy Thanksgivings, Native Americans are not Israelite, brother, you can't be in the truth keeping Thanksgiving to even come up here scoffing. If you don't believe what we believe, we know on the day of judgment that Yahweh Shai is going to separate the wheats and the tares, right? But understand this, the Most High's judgment is like a ring. What goes around comes around, baby. Go ahead, King.
All right, let's jump back into the history.
Zion.
Let's go to the treaty.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, brother. Can I just? I want to get the law.
Go ahead.
I want to get the law, and I'm done. I swear. I just want to get the law on the double. Okay, because the law is found in Exodus. Okay, it's found in Exodus. It says, right here, it says 22:7. It says, if a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. See that? Because it's the money.
So who's the thief?
Huh?
Who's the thief?
The thief is Esau. Esau stole his land.
So
he stole the money from this land.
That's why the prophecy in Esdras it correlates. It says
there
that
you go.
Get paid double.
Right. And it says, let me keep going. It says, if the thief be not found, then the master of the house. So if that person, right, that took the money is not found, but the person that has it in their possession, guess what? Let's read on. be brought unto the judges to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox or for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing, which another challengeth to be his, and cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor.
God, I don't want.
Who
Hey,
would that
now
be?
All the stuff that he had in his possession, he has to pay double. Bottom line.
God.
So
Hey,
that's
grab
speaking
that.
on the ones that say I never had slaves.
Right. Exactly.
I wasn't the one that had anything to do with
There
slavery.
you go. I didn't kill the Indians.
That's right.
That was my ancestors that did that. But you got all these riches in your possession, right? You got everything in your possession. That's the law. The law of the Most High. You broke the law. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's it. So that's all I want to say. I don't want to go ahead. Go ahead with your.
Hey, real quick, just before you go there, grab Exodus 21 and 19, just to precept that up, and then we're gonna give it to Zion.
Mm-hmm.
Exodus 21:19, just to land me back off of that. I love when we do classes together, brothers. You know, with our history and time going back, we can feel each other in the spirit, and it's just like jump from all of us. You know what I'm saying? Exodus 21 and 19, I believe it is.
God, it's the book of Exodus 21, verse 19. If he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff.
Salakia, Exodus 21:16, Salakia. 21:16.
There you go. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Close the book up right there. I mean, that's plain. That's plain right there. You want to expound on that other one? Go ahead.
Hey, we don't have to, man. The scriptures already expounded on it. When we went out of Ezra with the Galatians and all that, it explains itself. I know we had somebody saying, LL, that don't make sense, brother. You pulled the wrong verse. I'm waiting for his reply. You know, I pay attention to the comments and the chats, but obviously the brother, I don't know, I'm waiting on his reply. But just real quick, I want to send a shout out to the sister Wanda for the super sticker donation. We salute you, sister. You're always a cheerful giver, and we thank you for always tuning in with us. And we got mad love for the sisters. So
water, sis.
Zion,
water.
You want me to share the screen again so you can get back to what you was bringing out?
God.
All right, let me get that.
Go to the treaty of New Ekata, 1835.
Let me see. I just got to remember. Okay, here it is right here.
You right there.
Cut.
All right, let's read that. It says the new Treaty of Ekota in 1835. Many Cherokee resisted removal from their ancestral lands in the southeast, bringing their struggle all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But despite the court's ruling in Worcester versus Georgia in 1832 that the Cherokee and other tribes were sovereign nations, the removal continued in 1835. The U.S. government met with the Cherokee representatives at New Ekota, Georgia, to sign a treaty and traded all 7 million acres of Cherokee land for 5 million and land in Indian Territory. The majority of the Cherokee opposed the treaty, but Congress ratified it anyway. And in 1838, the federal government sent 7,000 U.S. soldiers to enforce the removal of the Cherokees. And an estimated 10 to 25% of Cherokees would die during the 1,200-mile trek to Oklahoma, later known as the Trail of Tears. And this treaty signed at Fort Laramie and other military posts in what is now Wyoming, the U.S. government recognized the Black Hills of Dakota as the Great Sioux Reservation. the exclusive territory of the Sioux, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota, and the Arapaho people. But after gold was discovered in the Black Hills, miners and settlers began moving into the land in masses. The native resistance to the treaty violation culminated the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876, after which the government troops flooded the region. By that time, Congress had ended the nearly 100-year-old practice of making treaties. So right here, they said we ain't even making no treaties no more. We just basically gonna do whatever we want to do.
Con.
But check this out. If you drop down, it says in 1980, the Supreme Court ruled that Black Hill was illegally confiscated and rewarded the Sioux more than $100 million in reparations. Sioux leaders rejected the payment, saying the land had never been for sale, and the controversy continues over the sacred land as well as the other broken treaties. So did they get the land back? Absolutely not. Hey, now I'll get Daniel chapter 8 one more time again, verse 25. Read that one more time.
Kind of one.
We love you too, Mother Bethia. We love you too.
It's the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
So by his own policy, his own peace treaty,
Right.
he destroyed these people, right? By how? By military force, by flooding in the military troops,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Because the sword also means army.
That's right. Go to Psalms 55. I want you to bring out what you brought out earlier again, just to bring it home, and then I got one more precept, and I'll digress. Psalms 55, read verse 20 and 21.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 20. And it reads, he hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
That's right. So just like we went into Genesis 27 and we showed that Esau's blessing was the sword, this is what you're celebrating when you're celebrating Thanksgiving. You're celebrating the destruction and the genocide of nations of people.
Okay.
You rooting for the away team. That's pretty much what you're doing. You're rooting against yourself. You're rooting for the away team.
No doubt. Exactly.
Let's stay in Psalms. Go to chapter 140. Let's go to chapter 140, and we're gonna start at the beginning.
At the beginning,
Count out of one.
kind of one. This is the book Psalms, chapter 140. And it reads, deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. Verse 2, which imagine mischief in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adders, poison for under their lips. Salah. Keep me, O Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who have proposed to overthrow my goings. The proud have hid a snare for me, and cords. They have spread a net by their wayside. They have set gins for me. Salah.
So we all know who the violent man is, right? We all know who the violent man is. This is what his purpose is. In verse 4, it says, preserve me from the violent man who have purpose to overthrow my goings. So when we take on his position, when we take on his ideology, when we take on his philosophy, when we take on his celebrations, subconsciously, we're participating in idolatry.
Okay.
We're participating in idolatry. The same way Sergeant Yabatazar brought out earlier, all of the symbolism that's connected to what we call Thanksgiving today. He's worshiping other gods and goddesses. We belong to the Most High Power Yahweh. We belong to him. We are not to put any other God before him. And as long as we continue to do these things, we're going to continue to strive in the destruction of ourselves and the violence that the violent men keep attacking us with through medications, through alcohol, through drugs, through neighborhood violence, through miseducation. So now that you have the information, it's up to you. You can take it and run with it. If you have something you want to say, Sergeant Anwar.
I want to bring out Judah because you just mentioned, you know, us worshiping other gods and things like that, right? So when you worship other gods, because the Most High is a jealous God. That's what he tells us inside of the command, inside of the Bible. He says, I am jealous. So if you're worshiping another God, I'm gonna put you in slavery, because just like your father, if you out here serving another man, and that's your daddy tell you don't do this, but you out here doing it, guess what? I'm gonna punish you. I'm gonna put you into something that you ain't never seen before in your life. I'm gonna make you mad at me, but I don't care, because I'm trying to save you from something. I'm trying to save you from destruction. So I want to bring out Judith, right? Judith in the Apocrypha. Judith 5, verse 17, it says, and which they sinned not before their God, they prospered, because the God that hated iniquity was with them. They hated iniquity, was with them. Okay? Because when you did what you're supposed to do, the Most High loved you. You did what you're supposed to do. Just like your father and your mother. You doing what you're supposed to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give you everything that you need, right? It says in 18, but when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore. It's like our so-called Indian brothers, our Israelite brothers, our Native American brothers, because they went into idolatry. Okay, they worship these other gods. So guess what? They were destroyed. The Most High sent the what? Conquistadors to conquer them.
That's right.
Right. So it says, which he had appointed them. They were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs. Then they go into what? They went back into Spain, then they came back. They were led away captive, just like us. We were laid captives over here into a land that was not theirs. Okay, it says, and was not theirs, and the temple of their God was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemy. And didn't that happen in 70 AD? Our cities was taken to our enemies, gentrified. You read that in Luke, what 21? Is it 21? Right? Can't hear you, brother. I think you're on mute.
Oh, Salak. I was saying cut.
Yeah. So with that, I just wanted to bring that last scripture out, or whatever y'all want to bring out. Y'all brothers want to bring out something? Go ahead.
Let me just jump in real quick. Let's jump over to the book of First Maccabees. And we
Mhm.
started out with verse 60, right? So what we understand is this is when the Greeks conquered our people, right? And that there were wicked men that came out of Israel that joined themselves unto the heathen, and the law and commandment from the king that we had to put away our Sabbath. We couldn't confess ourselves to be Jews and things of that nature, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead and grab First Maccabees 1 and 60 for me, out of one. Baba Kashab.
1 and 60.
Yeah.
Con, that's the book of
Because this is what you gotta understand, brothers and sisters. You have a choice in what you deserve to be an idol for you. Thanksgiving is an abomination. It's a celebration of the destruction of your own people, the nation of Israel. We were in slavery, coming over on slave ships while they're doing this to our brothers and sisters. Why would you continue to celebrate something when all the information is available to you? We're in the age of information. There's no reason for us to be ignorant unless we're willing to be ignorant. But go ahead, King. First Maccabees.
Con, it's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised.
Now we know circumcision is of the law. That's a commandment on the eighth day the child has to be circumcised, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that we was forbid to do this. But look at how our brave women like the sister Wanda and Mother Bathia and sisters that might have been in that time, this is what they would have done. Read.
Con, 61. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses.
Uh-huh.
And slew them that had circumcised them.
Uh-huh.
Verse 62. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
That unclean thing is that turkey, that duck, them ass noodles called shitterlings.
That ham.
Right? Ham hocks. You know what I'm saying? Ham hocks. So the reality of it is, even our people back then had the strength to convert themselves not to do any abominable works or acts or anything unclean. Read 63 for me right there, out of one.
Count out of one. This is book 60, First Maccabees 1, verse 63. Wherefore they chose rather to die.
To do what?
Rather to die.
Same thing over here in Israel. Same thing at Ambassadors of Christ. When it comes to them holy days and the precious, we rather die in the truth than to be a part of that idolatry and abomination. Go ahead.
That they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they die.
Y'all know we first.
That's it, other one.
God. So we chose, so our people, even then, they chose to live for the Most High and rather keep the law, statutes, commandments, and the holy days that are written in the scriptures, which is part of our inheritance, right? So I'm going to just run through a couple of precepts real quick. We're going to go to Proverbs 15 and 26, right? It says, the thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Most High, but the words of the pure are pleasant words. So for a lot of people out there watching this, celebrating Thanksgiving or seeing the days later, these things are going to become grievous to them. Why?
Like that brother in the
because it says in Proverbs 28 and 9, he that turneth his ear away from hearing the law, even shall his prayer be an abomination. So these words, these scriptures, the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments, and this wisdom, it's a brother in the, what happened? Let me see.
That brother breaking up, man. So this is what it is. Hey, Zion, it's lucky. Brother Zion, you there?
It's a lot. I had to step away for a minute.
Yeah, I'm back, King. Yeah, I keep having reception issues, but Salakia. I believe I was reading I believe I
Yeah,
just
after Sergeant Zion, Sergeant Jabatazar is done, we're gonna end it. All right.
this is Ezekiel 14 and 16. Therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith Yahweh thy power, repent and turn yourselves from your idols and turn away your faces from all your abominations. This is why a lot of people in Christianity, when they deal with us, or even some of the women that are awakened, we get upset and offended because you guys continuously want to esteem these heathen days when we're telling you that we're trying to be lawful and clean and walking according to the covenant. So the scriptures tell us to be like Christ, to walk after Christ. Show me in the scriptures where Christ or Jesus himself or Yahushua celebrated these pagan customs. We can catch them celebrating the Feast of Dedication, the Passover. We can see Paul and all of these brothers keeping all the feast days, right? It reads in Sirach 19 and 18, the fear of the Most High is the first step to be accepted of him, and wisdom obtaineth love, right? Those are not our words. That's what the scriptures say. So when you guys are celebrating these pagan holidays, you're actually celebrating your conquerors, right? Isaiah 28 and 15 says, Isaiah 28 and 14, it says, wherefore hear the word of Yahweh, ye scornful men, that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. And that even applies to our modern day pastors, our so-called priests and leaders. They won't hear the Most High, so they're the scornful men. Why? Because they're leading our people into captivity, right? And to a covenant with death, verse 15. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. So when we're dealing with our people saying, hey, man, this is the slaughtering of our great ancestors. Nah, man, we're not celebrating it for Thanksgiving. It's just a gathering for the family. But you're still celebrating Thessamoria, to the goddess Dedemer, to the god Ceres, the slaughter of the Native Americans. This is a covenant with death, brothers and sisters. The Most High gave us the holy days. That's how we serve him. That's what we should be thankful for. There's many scriptures that tell us what we should be thankful for and what we should be giving back to the Most High for all that he has done and endured with us, even though we still suffer from the sins of our forefathers, right? Let me just grab a couple of more and then we're going to shut down, right? This is on Romans 11 and 25. For I would not, brethren, that ye shall be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye shall be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fulfillment of the Gentiles come in. This is the time of the fulfillment of the Gentiles. We're thus this day closer to our salvation. America is not our rest, brothers and sisters. It is not our rest. And on that note, I digress unless one of the great kings, one of the ambassadors have anything else they want to add in before we shut it out for the evening.
I don't want. I digress.
And I don't want a great precept. You know what I'm saying? Great class. Shalom.
Shalom, family. Shalom. Thank you for tuning in.